In the golden light of an African evening, a herd of elephants gathers around something on the ground. It's the body of a herd member, maybe an old matriarch, maybe a calf. The others don't walk away. They go quiet. One by one, they reach out with their trunks and gently touch the body, the face, the tusks, the ears. Some stand there for hours. Some return to the same spot days later, even after the body's gone, lingering near the bones. For a long time, scientists were hesitant to call this what it looked like. Attributing human emotions to animals is risky. It's called anthropomorphism, and science tries hard to avoid it. But after decades of careful observation, researchers have started asking a bold question. What if elephants actually grieve? And the deeper they looked, the harder that question became to dismiss. Let's start with what's actually been recorded. One of the most prominent researchers in this field is Dr. Joyce Poole, who has studied elephant behavior for over 40 years. Over that time, she has documented more than 30 distinct behaviors that elephants display around their dead. These aren't random reactions, they follow patterns. Elephants will stand silently over a body for extended periods. They'll touch it gently with their trunks and feet, almost as if trying to wake it up. They investigate the body carefully, smelling it, examining it, returning to it again and again. In one striking case, researchers studying Asian elephants in India documented something extraordinary. A herd that didn't just mourn a dead calf, they buried it. Witnesses reported the herd trumpeting and roaring loudly around the burial site. After about 40 minutes, the elephants left and were never seen returning to that spot again. And here's something else researchers have noticed. Elephants show an almost exclusive interest in the bones and tusks of other elephants. They'll investigate elephant remains, but largely ignore the bones of rhinos, hippos, or other large animals lying nearby. Why would that be, unless on some level they recognize their own kind, even in death? So is this really grief, or are we just seeing what we want to see? To answer that, scientists have moved beyond simple observation. They'd used camera traps, drones, hormone testing, and even brain studies to look deeper. One major study, led by researcher Shifra Goldenberg and published in the journal Primates, found that elephants could even use their sense of smell to identify other elephants that had died, reacting to deceased individuals with touching, approaching, and investigating behavior, even when there wasn't a close relationship between them. Hormonal studies have added another layer. Researchers have detected elevated stress hormones in elephants following the death of a herd member. Physical, measurable evidence of distress, not just behavioral guesswork. And in limited brain studies, scientists have observed activity in the limbic system, the part of the mammalian brain closely tied to emotion, when elephants are exposed to recordings of calls from herd members who have died. Put together, this isn't just elephants acting strange around a body, it's elephants showing physiological signs of emotional distress paired with deliberate, repeated, ritual-like behavior. Here's where the story gets even more fascinating. Researchers have found that elephant mourning behaviors aren't identical everywhere. Different elephant populations show slight variations in how they respond to death. Some groups use specific vocalizations, sometimes called grief calls, that appear to be regionally specific, found in some populations but not others. And young elephants seem to learn these behaviors by watching adults. This matters because it suggests these rituals aren't purely hardwired instinct, passed down automatically through genetics. Instead, they may be partially cultural, learned, shared, and passed from one generation to the next within a herd. Interestingly, elephants born and raised in captivity often show less pronounced mourning behaviors than wild-born elephants. If grief were purely instinctual, you'd expect it to show up the same way regardless of upbringing. But the fact that it varies, that it seems to require exposure and learning, points to something more complex. It's a strange parallel to humans. Every human culture has rituals around death, but the specific rituals differ wildly from place to place. Different songs, different ceremonies, different traditions, yet some emotional core remains the same everywhere. Elephants, it seems, might have something similar, a shared emotional foundation expressed through culturally learned behaviors that vary slightly from herd to herd. To really understand why this happens, we need to look at how elephants live. Elephants live in deeply bonded social groups, often led by an older, experienced female, the matriarch. These groups can stay together for decades. Calves are raised not just by their mothers, but with support from aunts, sisters, and other females in the herd. In a social structure like that, individual relationships matter enormously. Elephants recognize each other. They remember each other, sometimes for life. Losing a member of that group isn't just losing an elephant, it's losing someone they've lived alongside, traveled with, and depended on for years, sometimes decades. Given that, maybe the real question isn't why would an elephant grieve? Maybe it's, in a species with bonds this deep, this long-lasting, and this socially complex, how could a death not leave some kind of mark? So what does all this tell us? For a long time, humans liked to believe that grief, real, deep, emotional grief, was something uniquely ours, a marker of how special, how advanced, how different we were from every other animal. But the evidence from elephants suggests something humbling. The capacity to recognize loss, to be affected by it, and to respond to it with ritual and care might not be a uniquely human trait at all. It might be something deeper, something that emerges naturally in any species that lives in close, long-term social bonds and has the intelligence to understand that someone who was there is now gone. When an elephant stands quietly over the bones of a herd member, touching them gently with its trunk, returning to that spot days or weeks later, it's tempting to say, that's just instinct. But maybe instinct and emotion aren't as separate as we like to think. Maybe, in their own way, elephants are doing exactly what we do at a funeral, pausing, acknowledging, remembering. And maybe the silence in that moment between one elephant and the body of another isn't empty at all. If you found this story interesting, subscribe to Whyzly because there are thousands more questions just like this one waiting to be asked. Why do animals play? Why do some animals mate for life? How did ancient humans fall in love? Strange questions, simple stories. See you in the next one.